I got married during the pandemic, during the lockdown. Now, was it really worth it? Or will I, for the rest of my life, forever regret this decision? Let's find out in today's video. My dear elegant ladies, welcome back to a new video. Ladies, I am finally going to share some of my private life with you, something that I don't usually do. But in today's video, you're going to see pretty much everything that I feel comfortable with sharing. I am a very private person, ladies, and I like to keep my private life and especially relationship as protected and private as possible. But from time to time, I will give you a little bit of a glimpse here and there. So one advice, if you want to see more into my personal life, is to follow me on Instagram. The handle is written here on the screen, so just go there and follow me on my stories where I share more about, behind the scenes of Anna Bay. But ladies, let's talk wedding, because I had a very special wedding, a very unique wedding, a wedding I actually never thought ever in my life would I have. Number one, I never thought I would get married during the winter, because I am very much a summer person. Number two, lockdown. Not only pandemic, but lockdown, ladies. You don't understand the horror of getting married during lockdown. I'm going to explain everything, exactly why we decided to do it, to get married in January instead of just waiting until the pandemic was over. But first, I'm going to share a little bit about the kind of background that led up to our wedding, because I know a lot of you already know how I met my partner, but I'm just going to run through it very quickly for those in the back who've never heard the story before. Me and my husband, we met in 2016 in London. I had a girlfriend who was going to meet his friend. His friend was from Geneva, and so was my husband. This guy that she was going to meet was coming for a weekend with his friend, so he suggested that, why don't you bring a girlfriend with you, since I am with my friend and I can't just, leave him on his own, and we can do a group dinner out of it. And my friend asked me to join, so basically that's how we met. For those ladies who know London, I will give you the exact locations. We met for a drink exactly at 9 o'clock at the Berkeley Blue Bar Hotel, because they were staying at the Berkeley Hotel. Then we continued on for dinner at the very well-known restaurant Parc Chinois, where we literally enjoyed the whole night. There was music, there was live performances, and it's such a cozy ambiance there. I'm gonna post a picture so that you can see. That was our first official meeting. After that meeting, I didn't see him for 1 month, although he wanted to see me already the week after. But I didn't take him seriously. Instead, I was just moving on with my life. I thought that he was a bit of a player because he was young, he was attractive and affluent as well, meaning that I just didn't think that he was the type that wanted to kind of settle down and all those things. And that's exactly what I was looking for back then. I was so done of meeting guys who were just not serious and wasting my time. So I had set those really firm boundaries with myself, meaning that on autopilot, I just really ignored him, generally speaking, for a month. Now, I didn't fully ignore him. I still stayed a bit in touch, but it was more casual conversation, a little bit here and there. And trust me, it took me quite long to respond to his messages, to the point that he started to get fed up with that. He told me afterwards, and he was so close of just giving up, thinking that I was simply not interested. However, 1 month later, we decided to meet again, so he came to London, and I would say that since that meeting, we spent the whole weekend together, and it was a very special weekend. And sometime there, I think we kind of both felt that this was something more than just a fling. And then we just continued seeing each other, doing long distance for 2.5 years. We became boyfriend and girlfriend pretty much immediately, though. I would say it didn't really take us a long time after that second meeting. So since then, we started seeing each other almost every weekend. And well, it was my husband who had to come to London most of the weekends, because he was in Geneva and I was in London. So 2.5 years of long distance. Now, ladies, that wasn't easy on its own, let me tell you. I am surprised that we actually made it work so long. But what I think really helped was the fact that we saw each other every weekend. And we also went traveling a lot with each other when we got the opportunity to spend more than just 2 days with each other. So after 2.5 years of long distance, we decided that I would move to Geneva since my work is more flexible than his. And yeah, it's been 2 years since I moved to Geneva, so we've been together now for over 4 years. And when I moved to Geneva, I did tell him that we definitely need to try first to see how we work living together. But I definitely want to have engagement and marriage not long afterwards, because I'm not going to just hang around forever. And he agreed, and after about 1 year, we got engaged. So that was last year. And then we wanted to get married last summer. However, after we got engaged, COVID happened, and the wedding planning obviously became a bit confusing because we didn't really know what was going on with COVID. You know, we kind of didn't know, okay, what are we going to do now? Can we even have a proper wedding? When is this going to end? So everything was a little bit on standby while trying to plan everything. When the first restrictions eased, we pretty much decided that, you know what, we will do a civil wedding because it's very risky to do a proper wedding, especially now during these times that you have so many restrictions. Plus, we want to, of course, keep our family members safe, especially the elderly. So we weren't going to throw this big party where people felt obliged to go into and then people get sick. And that's something that we did not want to do. So we said, you know what? We can have a civil wedding and we can also have a church wedding later, a proper ceremony if we decide to. So let's go ahead and do the civil wedding and sign the papers, and August was our time when we wanted to do so. Now let's pause there for just a little bit, because now comes a very interesting point, which I think really does make my wedding a little bit weird in maybe some people's eyes. Because for me, the most important part out of my wedding planning was to make my wedding date work astrologically. Because I am a firm believer in astrology, and astrology has helped me so much over so many years in my life. And it's a tool that I use not only for self-development, but also for achieving the best possible success I can in this lifetime. I use it a lot for work, but of course I had to use it for my wedding, because in the second that you are doing your vows, that you get married, that you say yes, that is in that moment your birth chart of your wedding, of your couple, of your union gets created and gets born. So it's very important that the planets are aligned if you believe in astrology, because you don't want to have something in your wedding natal chart that just says that, let's say, there will be cheating or breakups or who knows what. So for me, it was really, really important that the planets were aligned, and actually the planets were flourishing in that moment and really set a great union for us ahead. It took me quite a long time to figure out the best possible wedding date, because I had multiple sessions with my astrologist, because we had to really look through the whole year. And there were some months that were better, definitely was during the summer, and then there wasn't any good months until January. As you know, there was COVID going on, and if you are somebody who have gotten married, you probably know how annoying the paperwork can be. For us, it was also extra annoying because my husband comes from Lebanon, where things can sometimes be a little bit disorganized and slow. Plus add COVID to it, plus also add the fact that I'm a foreigner and had to request papers, etc. from Sweden, and then add to the fact that we live in Geneva, where absolutely everything is slow. It's don't even get me started on that. We ended up missing our August date, the perfect date that my astrologist had found after so many meetings with me. And it was just such a disappointment, to tell you the truth, because I knew that from August until January there was no good slots for us to get married astrologically. The astrologist that I used, because so many of you have asked me who is my astrologist, and I'm finally going to reveal it. Her name is Joni Petri, and she's actually also very active on YouTube. She does Vedic astrology, which is Indian astrology. It has a lot of similarities, of course, to Western astrology, but I personally prefer it because I feel like it goes a little bit deeper and can be a little bit more accurate sometimes. Okay, so after we missed the August slot, I had a few more sessions with my astrologist to try and find a really good day date, because I didn't want to settle for just kind of an okay date or a date that I had to compromise astrologically just to kind of get on with the wedding or get it done as soon as possible. So when she told me that she found a fantastic date for me in the end of January, I said, you know what? I don't care anymore. It's the pandemic. COVID doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. I don't know what to think anymore. Let's just do it. And my husband agreed, so we said yes to that date. And of course, by then, our paperwork finally had been finalized, but it actually ended up being way before that. So we were all set for a winter wedding, which is something that I never thought I would do. I hate the winter, I really do, and I always feel so ugly during the winter season. So getting married in winter is like a horror thing for me. So let's talk about the actual wedding day. It was in the middle of the week, on a work day, at 10 o'clock in the morning. Another really random time. Please write in the comments below to tell me if you have gotten married that early in the day, or maybe you can share with me what time you married, because getting married at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday feels a little bit odd. It was a civil wedding down at the townhouse in central Geneva. I think that a mistake from my end was to actually get married in that building, because it's a very ugly building from outside, meaning that we didn't take any nice, well, we did some pictures outside, but they weren't really that nice because the building itself is ugly. If you ever get married, really make sure that the place you're getting married at is beautiful from outside. And that's something that I know now afterwards, that I could have just chosen another townhouse in Geneva, but for some reason we just chose a central one. So anyway, now let's talk about the actual ceremony, because it was of course very particular because it was the lockdown, so a lot of restrictions. Please be aware that we're not talking just pandemic and social distancing. We're talking lockdown in Geneva. Restaurants are closed, shops are closed, you can maximum be 5 people and all those things. So we were of course very limited in anything that we could do during that day. So our ceremony was me and my husband, 2 witnesses, and then of course the lady who married us. And we couldn't be any more. We couldn't even have a photographer with us, which was a little bit of a shame, of course, because one of the things you really want is to have beautiful images from the whole ceremony, also videographer, you know, all those things. So how I resolved the situation, being kind of the creative, thinking outside the box me, was that I told one of the witnesses to bring my ring light, where we put my iPhone in the middle, you know, to get some good light, and also we put the iPhone to film the entire ceremony. It was really funny because the lady who did the ceremony, the one who married us, she walked in and she looked at that ring light that we had assembled, and she said, I mean, she laughed, you know, it was all kind of a little bit comic. She said, you know what, I've seen a lot of things happen in here, but this is the first I've ever seen. And I think that was a kind of funny, but she said this is actually a brilliant idea, so she really didn't mind that we had put it up there. I felt at that point for me it was just really important to have some form of footage of the entire ceremony, especially since it wasn't very long. It was only 20 minutes long, so I wanted to capture everything with the little things that we had available to us. So that was a very important thing that I did, and I'm just very happy for that. So like I mentioned, the ceremony was exactly 20 minutes, if not less. It could have been, I think it might have even have been 15 minutes. And it was all in French. So the best man, who was actually the person who was the guy that my friend was going to meet, who ended up introducing me to my husband, he was the best man. So he was also my translator during the ceremony, because I couldn't, of course, understand everything in French. My French is not that good yet. So when we said I do, we said it in French, and then the first kiss bizarrely enough happened when we were wearing our masks, because the entire ceremony we had to wear a mask. Can you believe it? Now that is something that I would never ever have thought I would ever have a wedding where you don't see my face. I'm wearing a mask. I'm laughing about it because I think it's in a way a very interesting experience. It's a very unusual way of getting married. So even though it sounds very negative in a way, I kind of don't mind it because it gives the actual ceremony some character. I mean, I wouldn't do it this way if I had the choice, of course, but you know, it is what it is sometimes, and sometimes you just have to accept the reality. Luckily, the lady, however, she said, you know what, just remove the mask while you do a kiss, so you do a proper kiss. So we did that, and that was nice. And then once we were done, we had a photographer waiting for us outside to take some nice pictures, indoors, a little bit outdoors, and then we went home. We went home to do a toast, to take some more pictures, and also to do Zoom calls with all our family members. Because that was definitely the biggest negative of this entire wedding, was the fact that we couldn't have any family members with us. And it was a little bit sad, of course, but again, unfortunately, this reality is not something that we can control. It is what it is. And I will, of course, touch upon later exactly why we got married now during the pandemic, why we didn't wait. I will share that towards the end. So in the evening, my girlfriend, Lina, she wanted to really do something for us. We said to her, you know what, we don't really want to do anything because you can't do anything. Restaurants are closed. You can't have gatherings. You cannot, you can't even do a sit-down dinner because how are you going to have a chef? How are you going to have staff to come in when you already can not be many people? So we were so limited in what we could do. So my friend Lina really insisted. She said, I really want to have at least a toast with you. Let's do something very low-key, very small, just a very few people, and we will do just some champagne and some tapas and maybe a small cake, and that's it. And I said, okay, you know what? You're right. Let's just do something really, really small. But we have to, of course, really be respectful to the restrictions. So we couldn't even invite all our friends in Geneva, which was another sad thing. We literally just had a few who came in and some that left. So people had to come and go a little bit on rotation. So that was our wedding, nothing over the top, nothing, special in that sense. However, it was still very unique in the way that it happened and got executed. I still kind of think that I want to do a second ceremony, like a proper church wedding. My husband wants that too, and he's from Lebanon. So we are thinking of maybe actually doing it in Beirut in Lebanon after the pandemic is over, because the Lebanese, they are so good with weddings. Their weddings are always so over the top and fun and many people, so it would be fun to do something like that, because Sweden is definitely not the place for weddings. In fact, it's not really in the Swedish culture to get married. I think it's also a little bit in me, which is another reason to why I decided to do this kind of pandemic lockdown wedding, because I was never the little girl who dreamt about my wedding one day. It's just not part of our culture. We don't really care about getting married. A lot of couples in Sweden, they never get married. They just live with each other for the rest of their lives without even signing any papers. So I don't know. I guess there are cultural differences, which is important to take into account, that depending on what country you are from, you will be looking at wedding from your perspective. Now let's talk about the favorite topic of many of you ladies. What did I wear on my wedding day? So I'm going to show you pictures here, and you can see that I'm wearing a suit for my civil wedding. And a lot of the times I've received the question, how come you wore such a simple outfit, and why didn't you have something more glamorous? Now, first of all, I don't think Christian Dior is something simple. Yes, I decided to wear a very conservative outfit in that sense, but I personally, and this is a matter of choice to people, of course, that when you're getting married in a civil ceremony, it is not the same as when you're getting married in the big ceremony with the church wedding, or the big party. That's when you do the glamour, that's when you do the big thing, right? But in the civil house, you don't come with your big ball gown. You don't it's not that type of environment. As an example, when we got married, we were just standing behind the table. We didn't walk down the aisle or anything like that. So I personally think it would look a little bit inappropriate or a little bit out of place almost if I would have showed up with this really long gown and, all kinds of things. So I wanted to keep it simple, but I of course wanted to keep it elegant and conservative for the civil wedding. I would personally say that if I decide to have my second ceremony, it will not be in that type of outfit. Of course, it would be a more traditional type of wedding dress. Now, I had two outfits. I had my Christian Dior wedding suit with long sleeves because we got married during the winter, so it was going to be very cold. I needed to have a longer skirt. I needed to have something that covers my arms. And for the evening, when we were having that little get-together, I was wearing a Christian Dior boat neck top and a Christian Dior kind of a twill skirt, or how do you call them? So lovely. I felt a little bit like a princess. And then shoes, of course, it had to be Manolo Blahniks for my wedding. And let me tell you one thing, that those shoes, I wore them only once, but they are already dirty, even though we didn't really mess about or run around or dance or anything like that, which is kind of funny. So do not buy white shoes, basically, made out of satin. I also had a little bouquet. I don't remember the name of the flower, to be honest with you, but this is a winter flower that was available in season, and I thought it was really charming and cute, so I wanted to have that. Nothing else. I just wanted to keep it simple, not a mixture of flowers, just that one flower, and that was it. Now, ladies, on my Instagram, I did ask those who follow my Instagram stories. I am very active there, so I really do recommend that you follow me there. I asked if you have any questions that you want me to answer about my wedding. So I'm going to answer some of those top questions right now. Okay, so I have the questions here. I actually wrote them down on a piece of paper, being a little bit traditional and not digital for once. Okay, one of the most common questions that I think that I already kind of answered in this video, but the question is, will I have a wedding after the pandemic is over? So let me just explain a little bit more why we decided to do the wedding during the pandemic and during the lockdown. Now, we didn't know, first of all, that it was going to be locked down when we decided on the date in January. That was very uncertain. I was hoping that there wasn't going to be lockdown, that at least we could have access to restaurants, to at least do a sit-down dinner, you know, but we couldn't. So there were two reasons to why we decided to just get on with things and get married, even if it was pandemic and restrictions. That was because there is still uncertainty until when everything will go back to normal. This can take years. And I personally didn't want to be one of those who are engaged for years and years and years. I've had some experiences where, well, people that I know were engaged for a very long time, and in the end, it's almost like things just ran out of the sand or didn't work out. So I almost believe like it can be a little bit of a curse. I wanted to get married 6 months up to a year after we got engaged. So, especially since we just had a civil wedding, it was very easy to organize such events, so we didn't really need much planning. And will we have the second ceremony after the pandemic? I think there is a chance for it, definitely. We both want to do it. However, one thing that I've experienced in life is that you might think you know what's going to happen in your life in 2-3 years, but who knows, it might not be a good time. So either we do it after the pandemic or we do it in the future. Sometimes couples do it when they renew their vows. So you have literally two options, but I think for sure at some point I want to have a proper ceremony. Now, question number 2. Will we go on a honeymoon? So we were of course planning a honeymoon, and luckily we did a pre-honeymoon, which we went to Seychelles before our wedding over the holidays, but that wasn't our honeymoon. We want to do a honeymoon, but how the world looks right now, there's a lot of travel restrictions, there's a lot of countries on the quarantine list, etc. And we have a few countries and places in mind where we want to go for our honeymoon. However, it has been a little bit difficult to go there right now, so we're just waiting until some restrictions ease, and then we are going to go on our honeymoon. Did I have a bachelorette party? The answer is no. And neither did my husband, a bachelor's party. Because restrictions. Nothing was open, no clubs, no restaurants, nothing. So where to go basically, unless you do it at somebody's house. But again, you'll have the limit of how many people. But I actually didn't feel like that was something that I missed out on or felt that that was an important part. Never really felt bothered by that. Next question, who were invited? So as I told you, we couldn't really invite many. We just had a handful of people coming and going in the evening. So that was a very sad part, that none of our family members could attend, which, yeah, it is what it is sometimes. So yeah, that was definitely a sad part, the fact that family members couldn't attend, despite the fact that, you know, almost none of our friends could attend, especially family couldn't attend. That was, of course, very difficult. How did you make him propose? I feel like I've always been very upfront with my husband about kind of what I expect in the relationship, and I think that that is very important. When I told him that I am happy to do the compromise and move to Geneva, but I do want a date and I do want, you know, things happening. I don't feel like us just, you know, living together for as long as it feels comfortable, you know. I feel like it's important to do the commitment. So we said 6 months, but we ended up getting engaged, I think, after 10 months or so. I think that was fine. Again, I'm not pressured on time. I was never pressuring him, and I really don't recommend to do pressuring, etc. But it's good to set boundaries, and it's good to be firm. Set expectations this way and be very firm that you don't accept being messed about and so on. So how did you feel the first day after being married? Now, ladies, you're probably going to think that I'm absolutely sick, but the day after my wedding, so the first day of being married, I had to be back at work. So my husband, he was enjoying his day off and just chilling around in the house, and I was working. So, you know, it's the way it is sometimes in life. You have to make compromises, you have to make sacrifices. Not everything is going to be picture perfect all the time, but you know what? I love my husband and I love my work as well. So I was not complaining, even though for some people it might sound pretty bizarre, but who cares? And this is a funny question. Was it an intention to have a Carrie Bradshaw dress? You know what? I actually didn't think about how similar probably my dress was to the dress Carrie Bradshaw married when she married Mr. Big. I do think though that definitely that dress was stuck in my subconscious, because I actually always thought that the dress, or the suit dress that she chose for her wedding, was actually really nice, and I really liked that type of style. So I didn't think about it consciously when I decided to choose mine, but I think it was still lingering there in the subconscious. So I think yes, a little bit probably. What was the worst part of the wedding, and were you ever nervous? I think, yes, I was a little bit nervous, like the hour before the actual ceremony, and, you know, as we got there and everything, you know, you become a little bit scatter-minded almost, like what's going on, you know. At least that's how I felt. I was a little bit all over the place, I felt. But I still kept calm. I don't think anybody really noticed anything. So, well, the worst part of the wedding was, of course, the fact that we couldn't have any family here. And of course, the other worst part was all the restrictions. So those two combined is not good. But again, sometimes you just get on with things and, you know, the show must go on. And the last question, was it worth getting married during a lockdown? Will I regret this? Would I have done differently? The answer is, of course, no. Because I am so happy that we got married on such a good astrological day for myself and for him. I'm also very happy the fact that we are married now, and that, you know, it's a nice feeling being married, and we've been married now for a month. And I really feel that even the relationship kind of improves when you get married. It's somehow you feel more like a family and the beginning of a new chapter, a significant chapter. So yes, from that perspective, I think it was worth it. Now, about the fact that I will forever kind of look back and think about, okay, well, there was all these restrictions, no family, and all the small bits and pieces that were negative because I got married during lockdown. Well, this is the thing. It's all about how you look at it. So as you saw how I was, you know, throughout this video, I was laughing about it most of the time. And that's what we're doing. In a way, for us, this is like a fun, quirky memory of how funny that we got married in such a bizarre way. And it will be a memory for life because of this. So it's all about your own perception and how you react to something. You can react and beat yourself up about it and be devastated, but that's not what I've chosen to do. I've chosen to be thinking that it was actually quite funny and laugh about it and still look back on my wedding day, because I thought that it was still a very, very nice day. Everything ran smoothly, everything was nice. We had still some people around us, we had good memories, we had some nice Zoom conversations with our family members. Like, we did the best we could out of it, and for that I'm happy, and it was a nice day, and it was a day that I will remember forever. So I'm going to be grateful for that, instead of trying to be perfectionistic or obsessed about details that in the very end, does it really matter, you know? What really matters is the person you were there with and how you both felt. And we loved it, to tell you the truth. For us, it was a very intimate, cozy wedding where we could really also focus on each other on such special day, instead of being so preoccupied of everything else, of the whole show that goes on around you. So that's my take on my lockdown wedding. Now, ladies, definitely share your wedding stories in the comment section. I really do want to hear if anybody else had some quirky weddings, or even if you had a pandemic wedding. Please share with me. I really want to know. And ladies, if you are wondering why I do not show my husband, I have showed you a little bit of him. I have decided not to go all in and show you in detail who he is in order to respect his privacy. But I do share more about this in my video, why I will never show my boyfriend. I think that's what it's called, yes. And ladies, in that video you will find out more about my principles. Go and watch that video, ladies, because I will see you there.